All right, a bit of a bigger video today because we're actually going to be talking about a progress update here, talking about the Sky Pirates progress as it stands so far, as well as the Bahrag spider, because someone brought that up on the Discord server. Wanted to go ahead and talk about that one as well. And lastly, wanted to talk a little bit about a side project that I want to do for the YouTube channel. It has nothing to do with Bionicle at all, but it is a bit of a bigger project, so that's going to be towards the end of the video. Before we get into any of that, if you like what you see here, make sure you are subscribed, and of course, progress on Resin Casts as well. Yeah, I've got 2 of these guys now, so I'm pretty happy with it. Second one needs to continue finishing curing because that's still real soft. But the first one is doing excellent, and that is much firmer. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the Sky Pirate stuff here real quick. First things first, I did do some work on the last 3 of the Sky Pirates. I'm not as happy with them so far, and I'm going to continue to sort of work through some ideas that I want with them, because if you guys think of like the Glatorian sets, especially the first wave of Glatorian, several of them have different builds with their body designs, right? Strax and Skrull being the most obvious too, of course. With that said, the Glatorian Legends still have some interesting things going on, most notably with Kina, of course, having her own custom body. And so I wanted to make sure that I did something like that as well, at least once, if not twice, throughout the wave. There are 9 different Glatorian in this wave, so yeah, it's got to be at least 2, right? With that said, though, progress has also been made sort of on the canister lids, or maybe progress is the wrong word here, but brainstorming at the very least, by a member of the Discord server known as Ted the First, who actually drew up this, which I love. There are a handful of little critiques with it, notably having to deal with like logistics and stuff, not anything major, but in concept here, I know exactly what they were going for here, and this looks really good. Right off the bat, it is using a canister very similar to that of the other 2009 sets, but the lid is where the difference is. Of course, this is something that I hinted at in a previous video, where I basically talked about utilizing the lids as airships, right? Because it is a Sky Pirate theme. That doesn't mean that the ships need to, in and of themselves, have air-related things on them. They can be aquatic looking like this, and I actually prefer that, because the idea is that the stuff that you add on, like the little jet engines and stuff that you're able to add on to this, would essentially account for the fact that it is a flying ship, right? So the ship itself doesn't have anything in the way of flight intentionally. That also means that you can go backwards with it if you wanted to go to 2007 and utilize these as part of your 2007 storyline as well, right? If you want to. And I like that. In terms of the concept here, it's really good. It's a 2-part lid, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. I had hinted at doing a 2-part lid as well, but the idea was that the 2 parts would essentially replace the canister itself, in that you would put the 2 parts together, but really one would be flipped so that the 2 halves essentially create an equal shape. You can think of it like a yin-yang, but in this case, rectangular, right? Well, the idea was that each of these halves could be their own individual boat, but then you could combine them together to make a longer boat, or you could combine them at the sides to make a wider, like pontoon style boat. I thought that was a really cool concept, right? It also means just making one individual piece rather than 2, but this is really excellent here, and I understand exactly what they were trying to go for as well. With this sort of hinged mechanism, meaning that this corner up at the top edge, you can't really see it, but would essentially come down and sort of meet a little bit of a groove there, and thus the whole boat shape would start to take effect, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. I do apologize. It looks to take inspiration as well from like the Mari swords, specifically the Aqua Blades. There are 3 different types of those as well, and it has that sort of like same wave pattern, which I love. They're some of my favorite weapons in Bionicle, so I love to see it here as well. I do think that the amount of pinholes here and actual holes and the changeover and stuff is a little bit too much. What I think I would do is actually just have like a little bump in this area here if I was going to do something like this sort of hinged mechanism, and then essentially that bump can ride between the teeth on this to thus put it in whatever location you need it to be in, right? To adjust it to whatever angle you need. It's a pretty cool concept. There are some other issues with it in terms of the logistics. At the end of the day, a lid is going to be your most vulnerable part on a Bionicle canister because it's exposed, right? So if one of the 2 halves doesn't doesn't survive transportation, that can be a big problem, right? And so in concept, it's really cool. I do think I would change a handful of things, but that's nothing major, neither here nor there. I also think I would go for just 2 of these sets of 3 pinholes eliminate the one here in the middle, because it starts to get a little bit overblown, a little too distracting, I guess, for kids. I don't know if that's even the right term either, but still really nice to have extra connection points, of course, as always, with an axle hole in the middle instead of a pinhole to make it easier to attach these types of pieces without them, wobbling or what have you, and more notably pieces like the jetpacks, right? And that way it's more, what was I gonna say, more adaptable, I guess. Lastly, I would have a pinhole at the very front facing upward, in this case facing towards the bottom of the canister, but if the boat's rotated, then it'd be facing upward. That's to attach the actual Thornax blaster or cannon blaster, whatever it's using, on there. And I'd also put some little holes on the side here to attach chain links to, like the Inika chain links, these style of chain links. The holes themselves could be very similar to the Huki Inika weapon, so that kind of squared off fancy shape, whatever you want to call that. All right, let's go ahead and move on from this, because I will spend too long on it otherwise. But yeah, it's a lovely design here. I really enjoy everything that they were going for here. Yeah, so hopping off of this one, talking about the Bahrag spider really quickly. So if you guys were on this channel before November, before things started to blow up, you would have seen the Bahrag spider. I haven't featured it in a video since then yet, but I planned on working on the actual project. Unfortunately, the file for the most complete version of it that I had actually corrupted, and so I have to work off of an earlier file. That's not a big deal. It's a couple hundred pieces that I have to put in there, but the set itself is like 700 pieces, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. And because of that, that does mean that it's a lot of work to sort of troubleshoot any small minor gripes I might have with the set. And because of my current workspace, that's very difficult right now. In the future here, in the hopefully near future, when we have some money coming in, the idea is to get more storage back here. You can't really see it, but I have one of those like 3-drawer organizer, plastic organizer things back here. I want to get a second one of those. I don't have a massive Bionicle collection, so just 2 of those is really all I need. And then I want to go with a small table in the corner, not only for building, but also for when I want to do videos. I can take you guys over there as well to do reviews, to do unboxings, to do builds on video as well. And I think I'd really enjoy that kind of stuff. Plus, we've got a window right there, so I mean, it kind of works out perfect for us anyway. With that said, though, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the Bahrag spider really quickly. The main things I want to address are some very minor issues with the legs, but if you guys haven't seen this behemoth, it's enormous. Here's my head for scale. Here it is as a hat, so it's a big guy. He's a big guy. He's a good guy though. And the build for it is honestly lovely. It's just complicated. So instructions for this will probably come at a much later date, but at the very least, the file for this should be coming hopefully soon, in the next couple of months. I did say hopefully this weekend. I think it will be longer than that, again, just because of that workspace issue. But to go over again the functions for this set can carry a full set of 6 Bahrag. It can carry a Bahrag in this carriage up here. There are a couple pieces I've taken off of this, so no big deal. It can carry a Bahrag in this bottom carriage here, a little bit harder to get it in there with the leg in the way, but in all of these locations, the Bahrag actually locks in place as well, meaning that not only will it connect, but you can hold the model upside down and it's not going to fall out. The thing can literally display a full set of 6 Bahrag. You can also attach it to the back here as well. That's where the 6th one will go. And the reason it's set up like this is because this is designed to mimic the concept art, right? So it has the pinchers here in the front on their own little arms. It's got these little side arms as well. No, it is not using only pieces from 2002 or 2003, but I'm okay with that. It looks absolutely incredible. And in terms of the functions, as you could see there, this is a lock mechanism, but it does have a function tied in, which I'm going to try and move some things out of the way, so hopefully I don't lose it. Push the little button on the back. Hold on, let me see if I can show you this. Push the button on the back here, and it disengages the Bahrag. The Bahrag then rolls down this sort of funnel-shaped face, and I tried to lean it back there so it wouldn't roll too far, and I caught it, thankfully. But the other, more substantial function also has to deal with that carriage, that area where it sits, but it has to do with the front legs here, and that is that pressing the front legs into the ground. I'm going to do this without the Bahrag on there this time because I don't want to launch it. Will catapult the Bahrag, as you can see there. So that whole mechanism moves. It's a beautiful function. It it's just difficult to explain exactly how everything in there is working, but you see there's a lot of mechanisms moving around. Yeah, I love it. It's just it does come with its own little set of issues. So I want to make sure that I can iron everything out before this is like fully made into instructions, just because otherwise I'm making instructions for something that isn't satisfying to me, right? So yeah, that's a big guy. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this one back down now. um, Oh, the last thing I want to say about it too is it is buildable in all 6 colors as well, so you can build it in whatever colors you want, red and blue, but also of course green, brown, black, and white. Couple pieces have to change, but nothing major. All of the large pieces, all of the paneling, if you want to call it that, are available in each of those 6 colors. With that being said, the project I want to work on before we end the video here has to actually do with a sort of long form video, I guess a video essay if you want to call it that. Someone said that that's what my channel is with the Bionicle stuff. I'm like, that's not exactly wrong, which is kind of cool. I like that. But yeah, so the idea is I actually want to make a video. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, talking about content theft. I don't mean plagiarism. I'm not talking about kind of the H-Bomber guy video, although I think that is relevant here. Again, if you have not watched that video, by the way, it is a wonderful video. I highly recommend going and checking it out. I'll also go ahead and link the video for the Bahrag spider to the end of this one as well. Just note that it's an older video, so it's crappier quality, but that's neither here nor there. That said, the video that I want to make, like I said, is specifically about content theft, most notably short form content theft. That's like Reels, Instagram Reels, that's the same thing. YouTube Shorts, TikToks as well, and short form videos, right? It doesn't mean that long form videos wouldn't show up in something like this as well, but I have seen a lot of large creators blatantly stealing other people's content and passing it off as their own. This is something that's been going on for a long time. And again, it is related to plagiarism, but there are, I think, the victimology of these two things is very different, right? Because oftentimes when something is plagiarized and stolen, it's usually stolen from a non-video platform or medium, rather. Not always, of course. And of course, you have the big contenders with content theft as well, stealing from documentaries and things. But what I'm talking about more often is like blatant beat for beat. Oh, you post a short, you post a reel, whatever. I take that and pass it off as my own to my larger audience. And what I find interesting is that this seems like it's something that larger creators are willing to do. It's unethical, it's immoral, at least in my opinion. And it's unfortunate because it often victimizes smaller creators, and oftentimes those smaller creators are not credited. They don't get anything from this. Not that that's what the intention should be, but I explained it better in a previous video that I decided not to post. But long story short, I have some examples that I have wrote down. I keep like a little document of this type of stuff on my phone specifically, but I would love to see examples that you guys may have seen as well. And when I say like blatant content theft, that doesn't mean it has to be literally one for one, but oftentimes what I see is the most blatant stuff is often also the largest offenders, which I think is really unfortunate because these people have these platforms. And my thoughts, at the very least, are that with a large platform, you have some responsibility to do your own due diligence and make sure that you're representing your full self to your audience. It doesn't mean that you have to like show every side of yourself, that you can't have a private life, because of course you can and you should. That's healthy. But it does have something to do with the fact that it's not okay to just take something from somebody and pretend it's yours. It's the same. I don't think it needs more explaining than that. And I don't know really how else to explain it other than the fact it's just wrong. So if you have any examples of that as well, you can of course always contact me on my Discord. You can DM me there. I do make a point of leaving my DMs open on both Discord and Instagram, both of which are places you can get a hold of me. But you can also find links for those and Patreon in the description below if you want to support what it is I do here. Thank you, by the way, to all of the Patreons currently. Really massive thanks. Every little bit really does help out the channel. Thankfully, things are looking a little bit better for us here now, going into 2024. So crossing our fingers, we're not going to be struggling too much this year, but we'll see how it goes. And with all that being said, yeah, just make sure you're subscribed and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.